There are people in this world who believe they can take from you your trust, your energy, your opportunities without consequence. They do so without hesitation, without remorse, without even a passing thought that they might one day face the weight of their actions. But here's the truth: no one escapes the fundamental laws of being. When you take what you did not earn, when you deceive for selfish gain, when you step on others to elevate yourself, you are not building a life, you are digging a pit. And sooner or later, the ground beneath you collapses. We've seen it in history, we've seen it in our own lives. Those who manipulate, exploit, and drain others never truly win. They may rise for a time, they may bask in their temporary victories, but life has a way of balancing itself. You don't need to seek revenge. You don't need to stoop to their level. You simply need to wait, because a life built on dishonesty will always erode from the inside out. The universe doesn't forget, the mind doesn't forget. Even the most cunning individuals cannot outrun their own conscience forever. And the worst part, they know it. That's why they keep running. That's why they keep taking. Because deep down, they sense that what they've built is fragile. They sense that the day will come when the very things they stole will slip through their fingers. So what do? You rise. You focus on your own integrity, your own resilience, your own path, because your strength, your discipline, and your honesty will outlast their illusions. Let life take care of them. Let time strip away what was never truly theirs, because in the end, those who build on deception always meet the same fate, a reckoning that no one can escape. The nature of injustice. There are moments in life when you realize that certain people take from you not just your possessions, but your trust, your opportunities, your energy, and even your dignity, without a second thought. They do so with a sense of entitlement, as if your sacrifices were theirs to claim. They manipulate, deceive, and exploit, not because they must, but because they believe they can. They tell themselves stories to justify their actions. They say, this is how the world works, or if I don't take, someone else will. And so they walk through life convinced that their actions carry no weight, that morality is merely an obstacle for the naive. But here's what they fail to understand. The world is structured around deep, unshakable principles. And while these principles may not be enforced immediately, they are enforced inevitably. When you take what you did not earn, when you disregard fairness, when you inflict suffering without cause, you violate something far greater than social norms. You violate the fundamental order of existence itself. History is filled with examples of those who believed they could escape the consequences of their actions. For a time, they may have thrived. They may have built empires on deception. They may have climbed the social ladder through dishonesty, leaving a trail of broken promises and betrayed relationships in their wake. And yet, no matter how high they climbed, reality eventually pulled them back down. Some fell into financial ruin, some lost their reputation, some found themselves completely alone, abandoned by the very people they once deceived. Why? Because no one can outrun the truth forever. There is a weight to injustice, a burden that accumulates over time. And whether it manifests through external consequences, ruined careers, shattered relationships, public disgrace, or through internal ones like guilt, anxiety, and a deep, persistent sense of emptiness, the cost is always paid. You don't have to take matters into your own hands. You don't have to seek vengeance or waste your energy trying to balance the scales yourself. You simply have to recognize that life, in its own time and its own way, has a way of making things right. And that should bring you a sense of peace. because while they may have taken from you without guilt, they cannot take from the world without consequence. The price of deception. Deception is a short-term strategy with long-term consequences. Those who take from others without guilt, who lie, manipulate, and scheme their way through life, believe they are playing a game they can win. They assume that cleverness outweighs integrity, that results justify the means, that if no one catches them, then they have truly escaped. Well, what they fail to grasp is that deception, by its very nature, carries a cost they will inevitably pay. At first, deception seems like an advantage. It allows people to bypass the hard work required to build trust, respect, and stability. Why wait years to develop a solid reputation when you can craft a false one overnight? Why earn loyalty when you can manufacture it with manipulation? Why struggle to achieve something when you can take it from someone else? These are the thoughts that run through the minds of those who believe they can outmaneuver life itself. And for a while it works. The liar gets away with their lies, the fraud succeeds in fooling the system, the manipulator bends others to their will, they take, they climb, they accumulate. But what they don't realize is that every falsehood they build is a structure with no foundation. Every dishonest success is a weight pressing down on an already crumbling floor. They are constructing a reality that is not real, and eventually it cannot hold. Deception has an expiration date. It always does. Because to maintain a lie, you must constantly reinforce it. You must remember your fabrications, cover your tracks, suppress the truth, and silence those who know otherwise. This is exhausting. It requires more and more effort over time, and with every additional lie, the risk of exposure grows. It's like stacking cards on a table while the wind picks up. One small miscalculation, and the entire structure collapses. But the real tragedy is not just the risk of being caught. It is what deception does to the deceiver. A person who relies on lies and manipulation does not merely deceive others, they deceive themselves. They begin to believe their own falsehoods. They convince themselves that they are above consequence, that they are smarter than the people they exploit, that they are in control. But they are not. They are living in a reality of their own making, separate from the deeper truths of existence. And as they drift further and further from those truths, they become trapped. They do not develop real skills because deception has always given them shortcuts. They do not form genuine relationships because their connections are built on manipulation, not trust. They do not experience true fulfillment because everything they have was gained through illusion. And when reality eventually asserts itself, as it always does, they find themselves unprepared, unequipped, and completely alone. Consider the countless stories throughout history of individuals who built their lives on deceit. Corrupt leaders who believed they could outsmart justice, only to watch their empires crumble. Fraudsters who convinced the world of their success, only to end up bankrupt and disgraced. Manipulators who thought they could control others indefinitely, only to find that in the end, they controlled nothing at all. There is a law that governs existence, whether we acknowledge it or not. You cannot take endlessly without giving something in return. You cannot distort the truth without consequences. You cannot build a life on deception and expect it to stand. Eventually, the weight of what has been taken must be repaid. And here is where the price of deception is truly revealed. It is not always immediate. Sometimes, those who take from others without guilt seem to prosper for years, even decades. They accumulate wealth, power, influence. They walk through life unchallenged, unpunished, untouchable. But beneath the surface, the damage is already unfolding. The anxiety of being exposed, the paranoia of keeping the truth hidden, the slow decay of real connection, as trust becomes impossible to maintain, the deep, inescapable emptiness that comes from knowing deep down that none of it was truly earned. And then one day it all unravels. Maybe it happens in an instant, a scandal, a revelation, an exposure that sends everything crashing down. Or maybe it happens gradually, as one by one their lies stop working, their influence fades, and the people they once controlled walk away. Regardless of how it happens, the end result is the same. The deceiver finds themselves stripped of everything they thought they had, the power, the wealth, the admiration. It was all built on an illusion, and when the illusion fades, there is nothing left. But the most profound cost of deception is not external, it is internal. Because long before the world takes away what was never truly theirs, the deceiver has already lost the most important thing of all, themselves. They no longer know who they are because their entire identity has been a fabrication. They no longer know what is real because they have spent so long distorting reality. They no longer have true connection because their relationships were built on control, not authenticity. And at the end of it all, they are left with nothing but regret. So when you see someone taking from you without guilt, when you see them deceiving, manipulating, exploiting, understand that they are not winning. They may appear to be ahead in the short term, but they are on a path that leads only to collapse. Their victories are temporary, their comfort is an illusion. The cost of their deception is already being calculated, and when the time comes to pay, they will have nothing left to give. You do not need to take revenge. You do not need to waste your energy trying to bring them down, because life itself has a way of ensuring that every debt is repaid, every deception is exposed, and every unjust gain is taken away. Let time do its work. Let reality correct itself. And in the meantime, focus on building something real, because while their world falls apart, yours will only grow stronger. The power of patience. Patience is often misunderstood. People see it as passive, as weakness, as simply waiting for things to change. But real patience, the kind that transforms lives, is an active force. It is the ability to endure hardship without losing direction, to hold on to truth when everything around you is false, to resist the impulse for immediate revenge in favor of a greater outcome. And in the face of injustice, patience is not just a virtue, it is a weapon. When someone takes from you, whether it's your trust, your opportunities, your dignity, it is natural to feel anger. It is natural to want to strike back, to expose them, to demand immediate consequences. But here is a deeper truth. The world does not reward those who react out of rage. It rewards those who endure, those who outlast, those who allow time to work in their favor rather than against them. Because time, more than anything, reveals the true nature of people. The person who takes without guilt believes they have won. They believe they have gained something at your expense. But what they do not realize is that every action has a cost, and every shortcut they take today will become a burden they must carry tomorrow. You do not need to force justice, you only need to let life unfold, because when people build their success on deception, manipulation, or theft, they are not actually building anything at all. They are borrowing from the future, and the future always comes to collect. Why patience works while impulsivity fails. Imagine two people. One reacts immediately to every injustice, exhausting themselves in battles that only drain their energy. The other chooses to step back, to observe, to focus on their own path, while letting time expose the truth. Who will ultimately win? The answer is obvious. The person who controls their response controls their future. This is not about ignoring injustice. It is about understanding that justice unfolds in ways we cannot always predict. Some battles do not need to be fought directly. Some wars are won simply by surviving long enough for your opponent to destroy themselves. Look at history. Every empire built on dishonesty has crumbled. Every leader who rose through manipulation has eventually fallen. Every person who built a life on deception has found themselves exposed. Why? Because the truth has one unbeatable advantage over falsehood. It lasts. Lies require maintenance. They require constant effort to uphold, to protect, to keep hidden. But the truth stands on its own. It does not need defense because time is always on its side. The inner strength of patience. Patience is not passive. It is discipline. It is choosing to focus on your own growth while others dig their own graves. It is recognizing that your time is too valuable to waste on people who have already doomed themselves to failure. Because here is something most people do not realize. When someone takes from you unfairly, when they act without conscience, when they exploit and manipulate, they are not hurting you as much as they are hurting themselves. A dishonest person does not have real security. They may have temporary success, but they are always looking over their shoulder, waiting for their lies to catch up with them. A manipulator does not have real relationships. They may surround themselves with people, but those people are not loyal. They are either deceived or waiting for an opportunity to leave. A thief does not have real ownership. They may possess something today, but because they did not earn it, it will never truly belong to them. So you do not need to act in anger. You do not need to waste your energy trying to bring them down. Life will do that for you. Your job is to rise. Your job is to take the pain they caused and turn it into strength. Your job is to use every moment of frustration as fuel for something greater. Because when you do that, when you turn your focus from revenge to personal growth, something incredible happens. You stop feeling like a victim. You stop feeling powerless. You stop letting their actions define your emotions. And when that happens, you win. The patience that leads to victory. You may not see it immediately, but the person who wronged you is already on a path to their own downfall. It may take months, years, or even decades, but the weight of their choices will eventually become unbearable. And when that moment comes, when they finally face the consequences of their actions, they will look around and see nothing left. And where will you be? Ahead of them, stronger, wiser, unaffected by their destruction because you never let their actions define your path. This is why patience is not weakness, it is strategy, it is intelligence, it is the ultimate form of power, because the one who outlasts the storm does not just survive, they emerge stronger than before. The consequence of misalignment. People who take from others without guilt, whether through lies, manipulation, or exploitation, believe they are gaining something. They think they are advancing, winning, securing a better life for themselves at someone else's expense. But what they fail to understand is that every action, every choice, either aligns with the deeper truths of existence or moves against them. And when a person consistently acts against reality, reality eventually turns against them. There is a natural order to things, a way the world works that goes beyond human laws, beyond social contracts, beyond personal desires. This order is built on integrity, effort, and reciprocity. What you put in is what you get out. When you work hard, you gain skills. When you act with honesty, you gain trust. When you treat others with respect, you build strong relationships. These are principles that have stood the test of time, governing human success and failure alike. But those who take without guilt reject these principles. They believe they can bypass the effort, the honesty, the discipline, and still achieve the rewards. They think they can have the benefits without the work, the trust without the truth, the success without the sacrifice. And for a time, they may seem to succeed. But what they are actually doing is building a life that is fundamentally misaligned with reality. And misalignment always has a price. How misalignment leads to collapse. Consider a building with a flawed foundation. It may look strong from the outside, it may even stand tall for years, but the weakness is already there, beneath the surface, growing with every passing moment, and eventually, under the weight of its own instability, it collapses. This is exactly what happens to those who take from others without guilt. The cracks in their foundation begin the moment they choose deception over integrity, shortcuts over effort, selfish gain over genuine contribution. And though they may continue on for years, seemingly unaffected, those cracks only grow deeper. At first, the consequences are small. They lose the respect of a few people, they encounter minor obstacles that they dismiss, but as time passes, the weight of their misalignment builds. They start to make more mistakes. The web of lies they have spun becomes harder to manage. The relationships they have built on manipulation begin to crumble, and eventually everything they thought they had comes crashing down. This is not a possibility, it is an inevitability, because when you build a life on falsehood, it cannot stand forever. Reality will not allow it. The internal cost of a misaligned life. And even before the external consequences arrive, the internal cost is already being paid. A person who takes from others without guilt is not at peace. They may appear confident, in control, even happy, but beneath the surface, there is something they cannot escape. The knowledge that what they have is not truly theirs. They live in fear. Fear of exposure, fear of losing what they have taken, fear of being outdone by someone stronger, smarter, or more ruthless. They live in isolation because true connection requires trust, and trust cannot exist where deception is the foundation. They live in dissatisfaction because achievements gained through dishonesty do not bring fulfillment, only the need for more deception to maintain them. This is the tragedy of the person who chooses the path of selfish gain. They may believe they are winning, but they are in fact losing in the most profound way possible. They are losing their connection to reality, to truth, to meaning. And when the moment of collapse comes, they will not only lose what they have taken, they will lose themselves. What this means for you. So when you encounter these people, when you see them take without guilt, exploit without consequence, act without integrity, understand this: they are not truly getting away with anything. Their actions are not going unnoticed by the deeper forces that govern life. Their foundation is already breaking, even if they do not see it yet. And you do not need to act in anger. You do not need to waste your energy trying to bring them down, because their own choices will do that for them. What you must do is remain aligned. Stay rooted in effort, in truth, in integrity. Keep building something real, something that cannot be taken away by deception or misfortune. Because in the long run, those who align with reality always outlast those who fight against it. When the world corrects itself, and it always does, you will not just survive, you will rise. Your role in justice. It is easy to feel powerless when someone takes from you without guilt, whether they steal your time, your trust, your opportunities, or your dignity. The sense of injustice can be overwhelming. You may wonder why the world allows such people to succeed. You may feel the urge to strike back, to balance the scales yourself. But before you act, you must ask yourself, what is true power? Is it the ability to destroy those who wronged you, or is it the ability to rise so far above them that their actions become irrelevant? Real power is not found in revenge. It is found in resilience. It is found in the refusal to be defined by what others have done to you. Because while they may have taken from you, the one thing they can never take unless you give it to them is your ability to grow stronger. Why seeking revenge destroys you first. When you focus on bringing someone else down, you chain yourself to them. You allow their actions to dictate your energy, your emotions, your choices. You let them live rent-free in your mind, consuming your thoughts, while they continue forward, oblivious to the turmoil they've caused. And what does that achieve? Nothing. You may believe that punishing them will bring you peace, but it won't. Because their downfall will not restore what you have lost. It will not erase the past. It will not undo the harm. The only way to truly reclaim your power is to move beyond them, to rise so high that their actions become a footnote in your story, rather than the defining moment of it. What real justice looks like. Justice is not always immediate, it is not always visible, but it is always working. A person who takes without guilt operates on borrowed time. They may seem untouchable, but what they fail to realize is that every selfish act moves them closer to their own downfall. They lose trust. They burn bridges. They build a life that is hollow, unstable. And when the moment comes, when life strips away what was never truly theirs, they will have no foundation to stand on. Your role is not to speed up this process. Your role is to outlast them. Not through vengeance, but through discipline, through patience, through refusing to let their actions define you, the strength to rise above. It takes strength to resist the impulse for immediate justice. It takes wisdom to understand that life will correct itself in time. And it takes discipline to turn your focus inward, to shift from thinking about what they have done to thinking about what you can become. You have a choice. You can dwell in bitterness, in frustration, in the desire to see them suffer, or you can build. You can become stronger, wiser, more capable. You can take the energy that anger gives you and use it as fuel, not to destroy them, but to elevate yourself. Because here is the greatest truth of all. Your success is their true defeat. Not because you set out to destroy them, but because by the time they face the consequences of their actions, you will be so far ahead that they will no longer matter. And when that day comes, when they finally realize what they have lost, you will not need to lift a finger, because life will have already taken everything from them.